Welcome to Harsh Reality broadcast on the 25th of November 2013. The title of this presentation is called Running on Vapours. The first slide shows the US debt clock, and it now stands at $17.194 trillion. It's increasing at a significant rate, and it's only temporarily been increased up to the 7th of February of next year. Be very interesting to see what happens on that date. We also see that the Federal Reserve is keeping up its quantitative easing programme at $85 billion per month. There has been no sign of taper. In the past, we operated a gold standard in the US, and that was a 1-to-9 leveraging. In other words, 1 unit of gold in the vaults supported 9 units of currency loaned out. That was a sensible fractional reserve banking. Today, Western economies operate fiat currencies. They are highly leveraged following the introduction of credit cards, subprime lending and derivatives. Again, I've spoken about this in the past. I produced a video on the 18th of November titled Economic Forecast 2014. I spoke about two biases: confirmation bias and normalcy bias. We all suffer from confirmation bias. We all have a set of beliefs, and we tend to confirm those beliefs by speaking to like-minded people or going on the internet and finding information that we want to seek out. We tend to filter out other people's point of view. The other bias is normalcy bias. Again, I've gone through this. Just to recap, the experiences that we've had in the past, we expect to continue into the future. And that's why a lot of people won't be prepared when we have the economic collapse. I would also like to introduce a bias called optimism bias. There's been studies about human behaviour, and one study was about couples that had just got married, and they asked what were the chances of getting divorced, and it was virtually zero. They felt very optimistic about the future. They had no idea what reality was ahead, and lots of people actually do suffer from optimism bias. Having mentioned various biases, let's have a look at recent events that are waking us up to the harsh truth. First of all, several politicians have been exposed as crooks following the expenses scandal. This was specifically in the UK, and this was identified by the Telegraph newspaper. And here we are. Let's just show this particular example. MP's expenses scandal, Dennis McShane pleads guilty. This has been rife in the UK, and it's been very disconcerting. When they were found out, some MPs admittedly did go to jail, and lots of MPs did apologise. Well, isn't that very good of them? People in authority, such as priests, abusing their position of trust. Well, this certainly has been high profile over the years, and here's one example, one of many. Again, people in trust. Mainstream media have proved to be less than honest. Really? Well, the Rupert Murdoch affair highlighted this with the phone hacking trial. And there may be people that's going to actually be jailed over this. The LIBOR scandal, the London Interbank offered rate. Well, we all trusted banks at one time, and they used to be very safe, very well respected, but when we see things like this, it shakes our confidence. Just read out this little bit here. In June of 2012, Barclays plc admitted that it had manipulated LIBOR, a benchmark interest rate that was fundamental to the operation of international financial markets, and that was the basis for trillions of dollars of financial transactions. Between 2005 and 2009, Barclays, one of the world's largest and most important banks, manipulated LIBOR to gain profits and or limit losses from derivative trades. In addition, between 2007 and 2009, the firm had made dishonestly low LIBOR submission rates to dampen market speculation and negative media comments about the firm's viability during the financial crisis. There you go. Now for the latest scandal in the UK that seems to hit all of the scandals I have mentioned. This is truly, truly awful. Sex, drugs, blasphemy, depravity, arrogance, the crystal Methodist who didn't believe in God in his own brazen text to his dealer. This is Paul Flowers, who was the chairperson of the Cooperative Bank in the UK. This is dreadful. If we were to turn back the clock 100 years, we respected the ruling elite without question. Why? Because we did not have access to their private lives. The general population had no idea how corrupt some of these people were. In a nutshell, we were naive and trusting. At least in part, the mainstream media have exposed these crooks. The alternative media also provide balance. I still believe that we will enter the greatest depression, despite the fact I am aware that I suffer from various biases. I have tried really hard to overcome my biases in order to see matters from an objective viewpoint. I am much more aware as to the reasons why people see matters differently from me, and I respect their viewpoints, despite the fact they differ so much from mine. As I'm getting older, I'm beginning to understand human nature much more, and I realise that I will never be able to reason with some people. In summary, I see the following happening over the next few months. Optimism within the market as good news is fed through the mainstream media. Unfortunately, I think gold will fall in value. Raising of the debt ceiling, I'm sure that's going to happen on the 7th of February, and they will continue with quantitative easing at the same rate or possibly at a higher rate. I think that's going to happen. But longer term, collapse of the financial markets, gold rising very steeply due to the dreadful fundamentals and much lower standard of living, and there's going to be, in my opinion, further bank bail-ins. I've always said that Cyprus was a template. So, the longer term future, in my opinion, is still very poor, and that's because the fundamentals haven't been addressed. We still have politicians that look at the short term rather than be honest, take the pain now to make sure that we have a better future. Thank you once again for listening.